Welcome back to a new episode of How to Reach 2000. Okay, we get the black pieces. We're starting off with a rating of 979. White plays d4, and then after we play d5, they play c4, which is the queen's gambit. We're gonna go with the Slav, which defends the center, and if they take, we just capture with the c pawn, and we have a solid center. I usually play the semi-Slav, and I play e6, but I generally don't recommend beginners to play e6. I recommend just developing your pieces. So knight f6 brings a knight into the game, controls some key center squares, and after the move f4, which is a very weird move, it completely relinquishes the control of the e4 square. Only pieces can control the e4 square, which is not very good for the white pieces. So eventually we can put a knight on that square. We can also consider taking this pawn, but I wouldn't recommend that to beginners because white can play the move e4 and they have a nice center. So let's play the move bishop to f5. Bishop to f5 controls the e4 square, so we can see that this square is more in our control and we can put a knight on that square if we wanted to. Queen to b3 is one of the more common moves in positions like this. It puts pressure on the b7 pawn because the bishop on c8 moved to the f5 square. So the bishop is no longer defending the b7 pawn. But white doesn't punish us for developing the bishop early. We can continue with the move e6, which solidifies the center. Now, queen to b3 is no longer as dangerous of a move. They play this move, offering a trade of pieces. If we take, they have to take with the knight, and the knight is kind of misplaced. The fact that they put all of these pawns on the king side on dark squares means that there are a bunch of light squared weaknesses. So if we get the trade of the bishops, then it's pretty good for us. We can try this, and after that, we can try to take this. And if they play that, we can hang on to this pawn. That also looks interesting. Let's see what white does. I would assume he's going to play e4. Now that the bishop no longer defends that square, we can easily play this. This is an idea to play like a4 and prevent b5, but then we can pin the knight and then play b4 anyways. b5, not b4. We play b5, defending this pawn, and this move is not very good because we jump our knight in. This is just creating weaknesses. The pawn on e4 used to control the d5 square. Now if they trade, we're very happy. We're going to take with the c pawn, and we'll be super happy. Bishop to e7 prevents any knight jumps because that would be met with bishop takes and the structure would be damaged. They can still play it, it's not a bad move, but we're pretty happy with this position. You can castle, everything's good. They can play this, try to threaten checkmate, but I'm not scared of that. We can simply take the knight. Now they have a damaged structure. As we can see, this pawn is super weak. We can already start going after this pawn with moves like queen to b6. We can go after this pawn, which is very weak. This is called a backwards pawn. There are no pawns behind this pawn that can support this pawn, so only pieces can defend this pawn. And bishop to e3 is not a move because we play this, and it's also a fork of the rook and the queen. So we'd be winning a rook if bishop e3 is played. Because after bishop e3, we win the bishop, and then we win an exchange. So we're going to be completely winning. Okay, that's a good move. It defends this. Now we can either expand on the queen side because we have a majority of pawns on the queen side. So we can try to create a pass pawn. We have to make sure that we're not getting checkmated. Our king side doesn't really have a lot of pieces. So we have to be a little bit careful. But I don't see anything straight off. So we can play this move, prepare that. And that breaks up the center, and also the knight on d7 puts pressure on the e5 pawn. I really like the look of this move. We're going to follow this up with maybe this, solidifying the b5 pawn. Then we can play this. And after if they take us, we're going to play queen takes, which is check. And then we're happy. Okay, the knight on the e2 square used to defend the d4 pawn. And now that it moved to the f4 square, it no longer defends the d4 square. So we can take the pawn on d4. And after the king moves, we can take another pawn, and we're happy. So we're winning all the pawns, which is a very nice thing to do. Takes, this is a check. They cannot block with the bishop because we simply take, either with the knight or the queen, doesn't really matter. And after queen blocks, we can either queen trade and take this pawn with the knight, or we can simply take this with the queen. And actually, I prefer taking the queen, but in this case, we don't get that. So we can take the free pawn, which looks nice. Also, we maybe have ideas of this. Yeah, that looks interesting. Play this. Knight takes. I don't see any tricks that win for the white pieces. This rook is pinned, so it cannot move. We're just up 3 pawns, and white doesn't really have a lot of compensation. We have to make sure that our queen doesn't get trapped. This is a really bad move because first of all it hangs the queen, and also we can simply trade the queens and it's still really good for us. I don't know if I should take the queen because I feel like they're going to resign and it's not very instructive. I'm going to go for an endgame. So I'm going to trade all the pieces and show you guys how to win with the extra pawns. So now we put the knight in a central square so that our knight is no longer hanging, and we simplify more pieces. So when you're up material, like let's say you're up a few pawns, you should try to trade the pieces. And also make sure that you don't trade too many pawns because then your pawns won't be like as good. Like I can show you some examples after the game. Now we occupy the d file by playing this move. And obviously they play this, which is an excellent move. We play the move rook to d5, which is a collinear move because we're moving on this file, but we're moving to a place where if they take us, we can fix the pawn structure, which is beneficial for us. And if they don't take us, we're gonna double up, like bring the other rook, and then we're threatening to take them. Now obviously trades benefit us, but also we don't want to take them because that allows the white rook to get active. I hope that makes sense. Like if I took this rook, then they would take back and I cannot play the move rook to d8. So now I'm just going to be in a really good position where I'm up 3 pawns and also I'm controlling the d file. So activity and also material is very important. Obviously the trade was also winning, but it's not as clean. By the way, we lost no pawns, so like we have all the pawns that we started with, which is kind of amazing. Wow, apparently I'm trash. This is kind of unfortunate. They're disconnecting and I don't really want them to auto-resign. Take the win. Okay, we crossed 1000. It's very nice. Apparently we made one blunder. I guess it's not taking the queen. Let's game review this. 86 accuracy, pretty nice. d4, very nice move. Controls the center. d5 controls the center and prevents white from going e4. And they play c4, which is called the queen's gambit. Nice move. Plays c6, which defends our pawn so that if they take us, we end up in this position. And this is very drawish. Bishop here. But as you can see, this looks very symmetrical and this is not scary because you can play the move rook to c8. And if they play this, you can get the 2 pieces for the rook. So the 2 pieces for the rook is actually beneficial for the black pieces. And this is what most beginners tend to miss. And it happens in lines like the fried liver. So I'm going to show you guys the line in which most beginners playing with white want to trade off 2 pieces for a rook and a pawn. I used to play the Italian and this is what I used to do, which I'm not very proud of. I wish someone told me that the 2 pieces were better than a rook. I thought like 6 was equal to 6, but apparently it's not. This is very commonly played and they cannot play this, so they play like d3. After knight f6 they play this. They tend to do this, but this is not good. Like this is not good because as you can see the eval prefers the black pieces. You might say that 6 equal to 6, but it's not really the case because let's say you simplify down into an endgame and you get 2 pieces versus a rook, then you simply have extra pieces. So you're going to be able to attack the rook, but the rook cannot really attack you. And let's say your pieces are well coordinated, they cannot just sacrifice the rook for the bishop and get away with it because you'd still be up at night. So that would allow you a bit more freedom. So don't be scared to give up your rook for 2 pieces, even if that means that you're losing a pawn. Let's go back to the game. So this is what we played. And then they played f4, which is such a strange move. This is not a good move because it removes control of the e4 square forever. Pawns cannot go backwards. And let's say the pawn was on f2. Maybe they had the idea of playing f3 to kick out the knight. But in this case, they had no choice to bring their pawns back. So we play this. Yeah, the engine line is to take and say that you're going to be up a pawn. So engine's going to say this, and after this you just play this. You hang on to the pawn and you're slightly better. They can try to play this, but you can play this. But I don't really recommend this for beginners because it can be kind of hard. Just play solid, just develop your pieces. Knight f6 develops the piece, and if they take us, we're still going to take with the d pawn and control the center. They play knight to c3, developing the piece. We develop the bishop. The drawback of this is we allow this with tempo on the pawn. The queen on b3 is nicely placed. It puts pressure on the d5 pawn and also the c7 pawn. And you might say, after this, we can just play this, and we're defending everything. But that's not really true because the queen here is kind of getting in the way of your development. And also there's the idea to play knight f3 and then knight e5, and your queen has to go somewhere. Engine's saying after queen to b3, we can play queen to c7, but after this, do I really want to do this? I wouldn't go for the queen c7 line. So yeah, the best move was this, I would say. According to the engine, it's the third best move, but I would have played queen b3 with the white pieces. After queen b3, you can probably even play this. Yeah, queen b6 is the best move. So queen b6, and this trade creates doubled pawns on the b file, but it activates your rook on the a file. So you have constant pressure on the a pawn. And also, let's say they do nothing, we can take this, and we can play the move b5 and solidify everything. This is not scary, we just take, because we have two pieces attacking that square. And if they trade, we're very happy. Yes, they're getting this pawn back, but they lost a pawn in the center. We can play this move and develop our bishop, castle, bring this knight, and everything's good. Let's go back to the game. Get e6, solidifying the center, so that after this, we're no longer as worried. We can play this, also we can play this. We have many options. In the game, we get bishop to h3, and after bishop to h3, I took the bishop, and after this, I took the free pawn, which is what the engine has been suggesting the whole time. It's like, just do it, just get the free pawn, but I hesitated a little bit. e4, very good move, because it occupies the center. Now, I should have played this to attack this pawn, but I play this move, which defends this. I shouldn't have defended the pawn straight away because there was no threat to take this pawn, and I could have delayed it a little bit. The move bishop to b4 is the best move because it pins the knight. The knight cannot move, and we're threatening knight takes e4. And let's say the king castle, then maybe we could have taken this knight, and after b takes c3, we can play knight takes e4, and we're gonna win a pawn. So they play this. I don't think that's a very good move because it creates a weakness on the d5 square. And also this pawn on d4 is very weak and it cannot go forwards. After this, we can take with the c pawn and undouble, or we can take with the queen and add more pressure to this pawn. So we just play natural moves. So castles is a nice move. And then we play bishop to e7, which prevents ideas like this because we can just take. Castle, now we just take. We're not really worried about giving up the bishop for the knight because the knight was kind of annoying, and I don't really like playing moves like g6. Like I could have played g6, which also prevents checkmate, but I prefer not pushing my pawns in front of my king unless if I'm trying to create luft in the endgame. So this move defends this. I thought it was an okay move. Apparently c5, and then we're just breaking through. The pawn on e5 is going to be very weak. We play this, which is also a good move. It attacks this pawn. Now we take the free pawn with check, so the king has to move or they have to block the check. So after queen here, I was going to simply take the queen and then take this pawn. So that would be completely winning because we're up 3 pawns in that resulting position. And the endgame is pretty simple because there are no queens on the board. After knight takes e5, we get queen to c3, which is a really bad move because it hangs the queen. But as you've seen in the game, I decided to trade the queens instead. I didn't really want to take the free pawn because I'm already up material and I wanted to try and demonstrate how to win this position. They take with the bishop. Now we fork the bishop and the rook. We're not winning material in this case, but we don't really need to win more material. We're already up plenty of material. Now we just take, trading off everything. Engine says that this knight here is an absolute thorn. It's a really good piece, so you shouldn't have traded it, but I was just trying to show you guys how to win this simple endgame. They play this, decent move. Now let's see if we played the best move. Yes, we played the best move. This is the best move instead of takes. Let's see how the eval drops from 4.5. So after takes, it drops a little bit, as you can see. Yeah, now our pieces are no longer as active. Whereas if we played rook to d5, and let's say after this, we're gonna play this. Now we're gonna trade all the rooks. Yes, they can move away, but now our rook is an absolute god. The only open file on the board is the d file, and our rook is controlling the only open file, and also we have plenty of extra pawns, so we can slowly improve the positioning of our king, and then start pushing our pawns, and then we're going to be completely winning. We just try to create a passed pawn on the queen side.